In Wyoming's snow-blanketed wilderness, where silence reigns supreme, Los Zetas' elite kill squad breaches the cabin's reinforced door, weapons gleaming with deadly promise. Their confident smirks freeze as motion sensors trigger hidden mechanisms. Throughout the structure, fatal miscalculation. The man they hunt isn't another nameless target. He's the CIA's legendary mind-breaker who dismantled terrorists without laying a finger on them. While they studied violence, he mastered fear itself. As hidden speakers emit precisely calibrated frequencies and imperceptible gases seep through ventilation, primal terror floods their hardened eyes. Tonight, cartel brutality meets psychological warfare and discovers why some predators hunt not with claws, but with the darkest corners of the human mind. The lead assassin. But before we jump back into the video, let us know where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe because I have something really special for you tomorrow. And now, back to the video. The lead assassin, Vega, signals his team with practiced hand movements. 6 shadows converge through knee-deep snow, their approach muffled by the howling wind. Military precision in every step. Former Special Forces operators now serving the highest bidder. Confirm target location. Vega whispers into his tactical comm. Heat signature detected. Central room. Single occupant, responds Delgado, thermal imaging device trained on the cabin. A satisfied smile crosses Vega's scarred face. Simple elimination. Another witness silenced. $20,000 each. The cabin's isolation guarantees no witnesses, no interruptions. Just how Los Zetas prefers it. Inside, Dr. Gabriel Vance sits perfectly still before a chessboard, his weathered face illuminated by a single lamp. 56 years old, silver-streaked dark hair, eyes that reveal nothing. 23 years extracting confessions from humanity's monsters will do that to a man. Not through crude violence, that was for amateurs, but through precise psychological deconstruction. His fingertips brush across a hidden panel beneath the antique desk. A soft click, inaudible beyond the room. Systems activated. Outside, Vega positions the breaching charge on the reinforced door hinge with practiced efficiency. 30 seconds, he announces. Inside, Vance selects a vinyl record from a nearby shelf and places it on an antique player. Bach's Goldberg Variations. The haunting notes fill the cabin as he returns to his seat, adjusting a chess piece with deliberate calm. The charge detonates with a controlled thump. The door swings inward. 2 assassins enter in perfect tactical formation. Fernandez leading with an MP5 submachine gun, Cruz covering with a silenced pistol. Their night vision equipment reveals empty space where heat signatures had indicated a target moments before. Clear front, Fernandez reports, confusion evident. Behind them, Vega enters, weapon raised, spread out. Find him. The team moves through the cabin with practiced efficiency, checking corners, sweeping sightlines. Nothing, just furniture, books, the chess game abandoned mid-play, and Bach still flowing from hidden speakers. Basement, attic, Vega demands. Negative on both, Ramirez reports from his tactical tablet. Building schematics show single-level construction. Vega's instincts flare. Something's wrong. The air feels thicker somehow, an unnatural heaviness filling his lungs. The music seems to penetrate his skull, notes lingering longer than they should. Check again, Vega orders, fighting a sudden wave of disorientation. He's here somewhere. From Vega's left, Pozo suddenly gasps, dropping to one knee. Something's wrong, he manages, voice strained. One by one, the assassins feel it. Racing heartbeats, tunnel vision narrowing, sweat beading despite the cold. Not fear. They know fear. This is something else. Something engineered. Delgado attempts to remove his tactical mask, fingers suddenly clumsy. Gas. There's something. A voice emerges from everywhere and nowhere, modulated to specific frequencies designed to bypass conscious resistance. Dr. Vance speaks softly, almost intimately. Gentlemen, you've entered a structure specifically designed to dismantle human cognitive function. The compounds you're breathing attack the amygdala first, then the frontal cortex. You're experiencing the first stage now. Heightened threat perception, overwhelming rational thought. Cruz fires wildly at shadows, bullets splintering wood. Fernandez grabs him, trying to enforce discipline, but his own hands shake uncontrollably. Your bodies are responding to precisely calibrated environmental modifications. Vance continues, voice penetrating their fragmented thoughts. Temperature, barometric pressure, subsonic frequencies, airborne compounds, all targeting specific neural pathways. Vega fights through the cognitive fog, military training battling chemical manipulation. "Where are you?" he shouts, voice betraying unfamiliar emotion, fear. The lights dim slightly, almost imperceptibly, creating subconscious unease. The music shifts subtly, notes elongated to create dissonance just below conscious recognition. "I'm exactly where I need to be," Vance responds with clinical detachment. "The question is, do you know where you are?" As the assassin's perception fractures, a single chilling realization penetrates their disintegrating composure. They haven't just entered a cabin, they've entered a mind. Gabriel Vance hadn't always been a man who weaponized environments against killers. 25 years earlier, he'd been Dr. Vance, brilliant neuropsychologist researching cognitive responses to environmental stimuli at Georgetown University. His office had been filled with sunlight and academic journals, his days structured around lectures on research. He'd worn tweed jackets with elbow patches and had spirited debates with colleagues over coffee. That was before Kabul. Before he'd witnessed what humans could do to one another in the name of ideology. Before the CIA had shown him surveillance, footage of a terrorist cell planning to detonate devices in 3 American shopping malls. "Your country needs you, Dr. Vance," Deputy Director Hargrove had said, her eyes reflecting the gravity of what she was asking. "Your research on environmental manipulation of neural pathways could save thousands of lives." Gabriel had hesitated only briefly. "I study cognitive responses, not interrogation techniques." "Exactly," Hargrove had replied. "The agency has plenty of interrogators. What we need is someone who understands the mind processes, fear, stress, and resistance, and how to circumvent those processes without physical." Was born. For 23 years, he had refined the science of breaking minds to extract information, not through violence, that created resistance, unreliable data, martyrdom complexes. Instead, he developed methods that made resistance neurologically impossible. Precise environmental manipulations that bypassed conscious defenses and rendered the most hardened extremists incapable of maintaining deception. His methods were controversial within the agency, but unquestionably effective. 47 major attacks prevented, hundreds of terrorist networks dismantled, thousands of lives saved, all without once violating the technical definitions of torture in the Geneva Conventions. Then came Caracas, the operation that should have been routine. Extraction of intelligence from a captured cell leader planning embassy bombings. Something had gone catastrophically wrong. The subject had appeared to break, provided detailed information about attack, plans, all fabricated. The bombing proceeded, killing 37, including 16 American diplomatic personnel. Internal investigation revealed nothing improper in Vance's methods. The subject had simply been different, a rare neurological profile resistant to standard approaches, an anomaly. But Gabriel couldn't accept that explanation. For the first time in his career, his perfect understanding of human cognitive architecture had failed. People had died. He submitted his resignation the following day. The agency had been reluctant to lose their most effective psychological specialist. They'd offered continued employment with modified responsibilities, training roles, advisory positions. Gabriel had declined them all. He needed distance, perspective, the space to examine what had happened and why his methods had failed. The Wyoming cabin became his sanctuary. Remote, isolated, precisely controlled. Here, he could continue his research without institutional constraints or oversight committees. Here, he could refine his understanding of cognitive resistance patterns. What had begun as a retirement retreat gradually transformed into something else, a laboratory for perfecting his methodologies, not for breaking minds, but for understanding the nature of resistance itself. The cabin became a testing ground for environmental manipulation systems more sophisticated than anything the agency had authorized, until 3 months ago, when an unmarked envelope had arrived containing surveillance photos of Gabriel at the cabin, photos that shouldn't have been possible given his security protocols. Photos accompanied by a simple message: "Testify, and we eliminate everyone you've ever known." The Gaza Cartel had found him, Alejandro Garza, whose network Gabriel had helped dismantle 5 years earlier through the psychological deconstruction of Garza's lieutenant, Miguel Santos. Santos, who had provided the intelligence that led to the seizure of 40% of Garza's North American distribution network. Gabriel's testimony at the upcoming closed grand jury proceeding would complete Garza's destruction, providing the evidentiary link between cartel operations and corrupted officials in 3 countries. The threat was predictable. Gabriel had anticipated targeting once the Justice Department had subpoenaed his testimony. What he hadn't expected was how quickly the cartel had located him despite elaborate identity concealment protocols. Someone had betrayed him. Someone with access to his relocation files. Someone inside the agency. Gabriel had considered contacting his former handlers, requesting protection, entering witness security. All standard responses, and all compromised if his suspicions about internal betrayal were correct. Instead, he had done what psychological warfare specialists did best: prepare the environment for conflict on his terms. The cabin's existing security and environmental systems had been enhanced over 3 focused weeks. Every room reconfigured as a precisely calibrated psychological pressure chamber. Motion sensors linked to environmental controls. Audio systems capable of producing targeted frequencies affecting specific brain functions. Specialized compounds deployed through ventilation systems to induce predictable cognitive degradation patterns. Not lethal. Gabriel had never employed lethal methods, despite agency pressure during certain operations. His systems were designed to incapacitate, disrupt cognitive function, render threats non-operational without permanent harm. Some might consider the approach more humane than conventional defenses. Gabriel knew better. Physical wounds healed more cleanly than psychological ones. What he prepared was, in many ways, more cruel than bullets, but it would keep him alive to testify. Now, as Los Zetas' kill team struggled against the first wave of environmental manipulations, Gabriel observed from the hidden monitoring station built into what appeared to be a storage closet. 6 high-definition screens displayed every corner of the cabin, vital sign telemetry extracted from thermal imaging providing real-time assessment of each assassin's physiological state. What he observed confirmed his preparations were working precisely as designed. Stage 1 compounds affecting the amygdala, the brain's fear center, were elevating heart rates, triggering fight or flight responses without identifiable external threats. The cognitive dissonance created by fear without clear danger was already destabilizing team cohesion. Vega, clearly the leader, showed impressive resistance, military training providing cognitive frameworks for managing unexplained physiological responses. Gabriel noted this with professional interest, adjusting environmental parameters accordingly. Higher resistance thresholds required more precisely targeted approaches. Status report, Vega shouted to his team, fighting to maintain tactical discipline, as the compounds affected his subordinates more severely. Something's wrong with Pozos, Delgado responded, supporting his disoriented colleague. He can't stand. Fernandez attempted to reach the door they'd breached minutes earlier, finding it now sealed by hidden mechanisms. We're locked in, he reported, voice tight with rising panic. Gabriel observed their deteriorating condition with clinical detachment. Not personal satisfaction. He took no pleasure in their fear, but professional assessment of methodological effectiveness. Each response provided data for refining his techniques, confirming neurological models developed over decades of research. He activated the cabin's communication system, voice modulated to specific frequencies that bypassed conscious processing, penetrating directly to deeper brain structures. You're experiencing controlled cognitive degradation, he explained calmly. Stage 1 affects the limbic system, fear responses, emotional regulation, fight or flight mechanisms. Stage 2, beginning approximately 40 seconds from now, will target executive function, decision-making, rational thought, tactical assessment. Vega fired 3 rounds at the nearest speaker, bullets embedding in wood. Pointless resistance, but predictable. Violence was the reflexive response to fear when higher cognitive functions began failing. Shooting speakers won't stop what's already in your bloodstream, Gabriel continued. The compounds entered through respiratory and dermal pathways the moment you breach the door. They're engineered to bind specifically to neural receptors controlling stress response systems. Who are you? Vega demanded, fighting to maintain focus as his subordinates succumbed more completely to the effects. Pozos now lay unresponsive on the floor. Fernandez clawed at his tactical vest, convinced it was constricting, despite no actual tightening. Cruz fired randomly at shadows, his compromised visual cortex perceived as threats. Gabriel considered the question, not his name. Vega knew that already. He was asking about identity in a deeper sense. What kind of man creates a house that dismantles minds? I'm the consequence of decisions made long before tonight, Gabriel answered finally, just as you are. Through the monitoring system, Gabriel observed the team's vital signs indicating transition to stage 2 effects, cognitive degradation accelerating, neural pathways processing sensory information becoming compromised. Time to advance the scenario. He adjusted environmental controls once more. Cabin temperature dropped 10 degrees in 60 seconds. Subliminal frequencies shifted to target the temporal lobe, the brain region processing auditory information and certain memory functions. Bach's-Goldberg variations distorted slightly, notes elongating beyond normal acoustic parameters. To the assassin's compromised perception, the music would seem to slow while maintaining pitch, an impossible acoustic phenomenon creating profound cognitive dissonance. "What do you want?" Vega managed, the last team member maintaining functional communication. His pupils dilated unevenly, autonomic nervous system increasingly compromised. The question was interesting. Not tactically useful, Vega had no negotiating position, but revealing of his psychological profile. Seeking to understand motivation rather than pleading for mercy suggested training beyond standard cartel operations. "I want to understand why Gaza sent 6 men to eliminate a single witness," Gabriel replied. "Excessive for a standard removal operation. Suggests something more significant than testimony concerns him." Vega's expression flickered. Micro-movements indicating recognition and surprise. Gabriel had struck closer to truth than expected. "You know nothing," Vega managed, but his physiological response indicated otherwise. Pulse accelerating beyond what the compounds alone would cause. A reaction to information exposure rather than chemical influence. Interesting. There was something more to this operation than simple witness elimination. Gabriel considered his options. The original plan had been straightforward. Neutralize the kill team, contact Justice Department handlers through secure channels, accelerate testimony scheduling before Gaza could dispatch additional assets. Now, new variables emerged. Vega's reaction suggested Gaza's concerns transcended standard testimony. There was intel here worth extracting. Gabriel adjusted his approach. Rather than progressing to Stage 3 environmental protocols, complete sensory disorientation leading to unconsciousness, he would implement targeted cognitive isolation, separate Vega from high steam, apply precisely calibrated psychological pressure, extract whatever information the assassin possessed before rendering him unconscious. A psychological interrogation. Gabriel hadn't conducted one since Caracas. Since his methods had failed, with catastrophic consequences, the familiar cold focus returned. The operational mindset that had defined 23 years of breaking the world's most dangerous minds. Through the monitoring system, Gabriel activated localized ventilation protocols, clearing their around Vega while maintaining compound saturation for the other assassins. "Your team is incapacitated," Gabriel informed Vega through the communication system. "You're now experiencing partial compound clearing, sufficient cognitive function for focused communication while maintaining suggestibility." Vega blinked rapidly, consciousness partially returning as the compound concentration decreased around him. The other assassins remained in various states of sensory disorientation. Pozos unconscious, Cruz hallucinating threats, Fernandez and Delgado paralyzed by overwhelming anxiety, Ramirez trapped in a dissociative loop. "Now," Gabriel continued, voice modulated to specific frequencies proven to enhance information surrender, "let's discuss what Gaza fears more than standard testimony." In the monitoring station, Gabriel prepared for psychological interrogation, the art he had mastered through 2 decades of breaking terrorists, spies, and cartel assassins, not through crude force, but through perfect understanding of how the human mind constructed resistance and how to dismantle it. The game had changed. What began as simple survival now evolved into something more complex, something that harkened back to operations Gabriel had believed finished when he left the agency. The hunt for information had begun. Gabriel studied Vega through the monitoring system. The assassin fought against the compound's lingering effects, military training providing resistance frameworks most subjects lacked. Impressive, but ultimately futile. No amount of psychological preparation could fully counter neurochemical manipulation. "Your team will remain unconscious approximately 4 hours, Gabriel explained through the communication system. "Sufficient time for extraction by my Justice Department contacts. Your operational failure is complete." Vega's eyes darted around the room, assessing options despite chemical impairment. "Kill me then," he challenged. "Finish it." "If I intended to kill you, we wouldn't be having this conversation," Gabriel replied. "Violence is inefficient for information. Extraction creates resistance, martyrdom responses, unreliable data. I'll tell you nothing." Gabriel allowed himself a thin smile, though Vega couldn't see it. The statement itself revealed volumes about psychological architecture. Direct resistance indicated hierarchical loyalty conditioning rather than ideological commitment. Cartel operators motivated by organizational consequences, rather than personal belief systems, responded to specific pressure points. Your tactical approach suggests specialized military training, Gabriel noted. Mexican Naval Special Forces, perhaps? GAIF? Interesting career trajectory. Elite military to cartel enforcement. Vega's pupils dilated slightly. Involuntary response to accurate personal assessment. Confirmation of military background. Standard operational security was bypassed in this mission, Gabriel continued, applying precise psychological pressure. 6-man team for single target elimination, compressed timeline, minimal surveillance, tactical errors inconsistent with your training profile. Another micro response from Vega, jaw muscle tension indicating recognition of operational flaws. Gaza sacrificed operational integrity for speed, Gabriel pressed. Why? Vega maintained silence, but his physiological responses spoke volumes. Elevated heart rate, perspiration patterns, pupillary responses, all indicating cognitive conflict. The seed was planted. Gabriel increased pressure. Your team was expendable, sent without proper intelligence, without adequate preparation. I'm not the only one who set a trap tonight. Lies, Vega muttered. But uncertainty had penetrated his defenses. Gabriel activated a hidden projector. Documents appeared on the wall before Vega. Internal Justice Department memoranda regarding the Gaza case. Legitimate files secured through Gabriel's DOJ contacts, combined with fabricated elements suggesting internal cartel betrayal. Gaza secured a plea deal 3 days ago, Gabriel stated with absolute conviction. Full immunity for testimony against Los Zetas leadership, including details of a kill team dispatched to Wyoming. The document was false. Carefully constructed disinformation designed to exploit organizational paranoia endemic to cartel hierarchies. In environments built on violence and betrayal, trust fractured easily when presented with plausible evidence of disloyalty. Vega stared at the documents, training battling doubt. Bureau fabrication, he managed, but his voice lacked conviction. Then why send only 6 men against a high-value intelligence asset? Gabriel asked. Why the rushed operation? Why bypass standard surveillance protocols? Each question targeted existing operational inconsistencies, transforming them into evidence supporting the fabricated narrative. Your death becomes proof of Gaza's commitment to cooperation, Gabriel continued, voice modulated to frequencies enhancing suggestibility, a sacrifice demonstrating his value to federal prosecutors. Psychological fracture points emerged in Vega's expression, doubt compounding with lingering chemical effects. Gabriel observed the progression with clinical precision, not interrogation in the conventional sense, but precise application of informational pressure against existing cognitive vulnerabilities. They should have sent 20 men, Gabriel added, driving the final wedge. With proper intelligence, unless elimination wasn't the primary objective. Gabriel watched understanding dawn across Vega's features. The suggestion that his team had been sent to fail, sacrificial pawns in Gaza's larger strategy, aligned too perfectly with the operational inconsistencies he'd already recognized. What else did Gaza tell you? Gabriel asked, voice softening to build artificial rapport. What was your secondary objective? The room's temperature increased slightly. Subtle environmental modulation, enhancing psychological vulnerability. Specialized compounds in the air shifted to formulations targeting memory centers while preserving communication capacity. The package, Vega whispered, resistance crumbling under perfectly calibrated pressure. Gabriel maintained neutral expression despite internal surprise. Package indicated physical objective beyond elimination. Unexpected variable. What package? He asked. Vega struggled against final resistance barriers. Loyalty programming, fighting information surrender. Gabriel adjusted environmental parameters, increasing compound concentration targeting specific neural pathways associated with organizational allegiance. Santiago's insurance, Vega finally answered, defeat evident in his posture. The data doctor. The revelation struck Gabriel with physical force. Emilio Santiago, Gaza's technology specialist, captured 6 months ago in a joint DA-CIA operation. Gabriel had personally conducted the psychological assessment that determined Santiago unsuitable for enhanced interrogation due to suicide risk. Santiago had died in custody 2 days later, apparent heart failure. Santiago created a failsafe, Gabriel stated, connecting implications. Insurance against capture, and he hid it here. Vega nodded weakly, compounds overwhelming final resistance. Quantum encrypted drive, contains everything: distribution, networks, political protection, banking infrastructure. Santiago called it the Data Doctor. The name registered immediately. Santiago's psychological profile had revealed obsession with classic horror literature. The Data Doctor was wordplay on Lovecraft's Necronomicon, the Book of Dead Names. Fitting for a database that named everyone in Gaza's operation. Santiago hid it here? How? Gabriel demanded, genuine confusion breaking through professional detachment. His security was impeccable. No one had accessed the cabin since construction. Not inside, Vega clarified, speech slowing as compounds fully penetrated neural pathways. The Geological Survey Station, 2 miles north, abandoned government installation. Santiago repurposed it. Vega's consciousness faded, compounds finally overwhelming his impressive resistance. Gabriel hardly noticed, mind racing through implications. The abandoned USGS monitoring station, concrete bunker installed during Cold War seismic monitoring programs, decommissioned decades ago. Perfect dead drop location, isolated, forgotten, structurally sound. If Santiago had hidden comprehensive cartel intelligence there, it explained everything: Gaza's urgency, the excessive force, the compressed timeline. Gabriel's testimony was secondary concern. The Data Doctor represented existential threat to the entire cartel infrastructure. Gabriel checked the monitoring system. All 6 assassins now unconscious. Vital signs stable. Compounds would maintain sedation. For hours, sufficient time for Justice Department extraction team to arrive. He reached for the secure satellite phone to contact his DOJ handler, then hesitated. If the Data Doctor contained everything, Vega suggested, its intelligence value was incalculable. Proper protocol dictated immediate notification through official channels. But someone had betrayed Gabriel's location to Gaza. Someone with access to protected witness information. Someone inside the system. The same someone who would now learn about the Data Doctor if Gabriel followed protocol. Decision point. 23 years of agency operations had taught Gabriel the value of institutional resources and their limitations when corruption penetrated security structures. The Data Doctor represented intelligence beyond individual management, but standard channels carried unacceptable compromise risks. Gabriel secured the assassins with reinforced restraints, unconscious but guaranteed contained if compound effects dissipated prematurely. Justice Department extraction would proceed regardless. 6 captured Zeta's assets provided significant case-strengthening value even without additional intelligence. He gathered essential supplies, weapon, communications, survival, gear. Wyoming winters forgave no errors. The USGS station lay 2 miles through snow-choked forest in sub-zero temperatures, challenging but navigable with proper preparation. Gabriel activated the cabin's secondary security protocols. Defense systems would maintain operating parameters during his absence. Environmental compounds would sustain the assassin's unconscious state until extraction team arrival. As he prepared to depart, Gabriel's satellite phone vibrated. Message from his DOJ handler, Catherine Phillips, security compromise confirmed, extraction team delayed, trust no one. Will contact through alternate channels. The warning confirmed Gabriel's suspicions. Official channels compromised. Structural corruption extending higher than anticipated. The Data Doctor now represented not just intelligence value, but personal survival, leverage. Gabriel silenced the phone, checked his weapon, and moved toward the cabin's concealed exit tunnel. The psychological warfare specialist who had spent decades breaking others' minds now faced a different challenge. Navigating a lethal game of secrets where trust itself had become the ultimate vulnerability. The hunt for the Data Doctor had begun. Wyoming wilderness stretched before Gabriel like a frozen wasteland. Moon-bleached snowfields broken only by skeletal trees and jagged rock formations. Temperature 15 below zero, wind chill pushing it to -30. Deadly conditions for the unprepared. Gabriel moved with practiced efficiency, conserving energy, maintaining steady pace. 3 layers of specialized cold-weather gear protected against the elements. Agency training in Arctic survival, providing crucial knowledge for navigating extreme conditions. His mind processed multiple operational threads simultaneously. The assassins secured in his cabin, temporary containment only until compound effects dissipated or extraction team arrived. Catherine's warning about security, compromise. Disturbing implication that corruption extended into Justice Department ranks. The Data Doctor, intelligence cache, representing unprecedented insight into cartel operations across multiple countries. Most concerning, if Gaza had sent One team to retrieve the data doctor, others would follow. The kill team's failure to report would trigger contingency operations. Timeline compressed, threat escalation imminent. Gabriel checked his GPS. 1 mile traversed, 1 remaining to the USGS station. The old geological monitoring bunker appeared as a faint outline on satellite imagery. Concrete structure nestled against a rocky outcropping, partially buried by decades of accumulated snow and ice. As he crested a small ridge, something caught Gabriel's attention. Faint tracks in the snow, multiple sets, partially obscured by recent precipitation, but still discernible to trained eyes. Not animal prints, human. Deliberate path toward the same destination. Gabriel immediately adjusted course, adopting parallel tracking approach rather than direct pursuit. Standard counter-surveillance protocol. Follow while maintaining concealment. Assess threat before engagement. The tracks confirmed his suspicions. Gaza had deployed multiple teams, redundancy ensuring mission completion even if primary assets failed. The second team had bypassed the cabin entirely, proceeding directly to the USGS station. Specialized mission profile focused on package retrieval rather than elimination. How had they located the station? Santiago's information must have been more specific than Vega indicated. Or, more concerning possibility, Gaza possessed additional intelligence sources. Gabriel approached a vantage point overlooking the USGS station. Ancient concrete bunker, half buried in mountainside, entrance partially concealed by drifted snow. No visible sentries, but tactically unsound to assume absence of security measures. He deployed thermal imaging equipment, compact monocular scanner with enhanced sensitivity for cold environment operation. 2 heat signatures registered inside the structure. Human figures, stationary, near what appeared to be the bunker's central chamber. Gabriel analyzed tactical options. Direct confrontation inadvisable against unknown opposition with established defensive position. Psychological approach limited without environmental control systems like those in his cabin. Stealth infiltration presented optimal strategy, though difficult in snow conditions that preserved evidence of movement. He circled the station, identifying secondary entrance. Emergency evacuation hatch protruding slightly above snow level on the structure's north side. Standard feature in Cold War era government installations. Redundant egress points, preventing occupant entrapment during attack or structural failure. The hatch appeared undisturbed. Second team had utilized main entrance, perhaps unaware of alternative access points. Advantage Gabriel could exploit. He approached cautiously, removing specialized tools from his pack. The lock mechanism had deteriorated through decades of exposure. Metal weakened by freeze-thaw cycles. Gabriel applied controlled pressure, mechanism yielding with minimal resistance. The hatch opened to reveal narrow vertical shaft with metal ladder descending approximately 15 feet to secondary corridor. Gabriel entered silently, closing the hatch behind him to prevent temperature differential from alerting occupants to his presence. Darkness enveloped him completely. He deployed night vision equipment, rather than illumination sources that might reveal his position. The corridor extended 30 feet before intersecting main passageway. Original design facilitating emergency evacuation without compromising primary research areas. Gabriel moved silently through the abandoned installation. Decades of government neglect evident in deteriorating infrastructure. Water damage, structural fatigue. Equipment remnants from long-abandoned geological monitoring operations. As he approached the central chamber, voices became audible. 2 men, speaking Spanish, regional accents suggesting northern Mexico origin. Cartel operatives rather than specialized military assets like Vega's team. Different operational profile. Technical retrieval specialists rather than combat-focused elimination squad. Connection established. Decryption sequence initiated, one voice reported. Estimated completion time, 45 minutes. Too long, the second voice responded. Backup team should have reported by now. Something went wrong at the cabin. Santiago's encryption is complex. We can't rush without risking data corruption. Gabriel processed the intelligence. The cartel techs had located the data doctor and initiated decryption protocols. 45-minute window before they obtained access. Assuming their decryption methodologies proved effective against Santiago's security measures. He assessed tactical options once more. 2 opponents, likely armed but prioritizing technical operation over security protocols. Confined environment limiting maneuverability but providing concealment opportunities. Objective, neutralize threats, secure data doctor before decryption completed. Gabriel, prepared appropriately, then advanced toward the central chamber. The central chamber of the USGS station resembled an archaeological excavation of Cold War technological history. Massive monitoring equipment covered in dust, banks of obsolete computers, paper printouts yellowed with age. Amidst this technological graveyard, 2 cartel technicians operated modern equipment, laptops, specialized decryption hardware, portable power sources illuminating the otherwise dark chamber. Gabriel observed from shadow-shrouded doorway. 2 men focused entirely on equipment interfaced with what appeared to be a standard external hard drive secured in specialized containment unit. The data doctor, physically unremarkable despite its catastrophic potential for Gaza's organization. Both technicians carried sidearms, Glock 19s in shoulder holsters, easily accessible but currently ignored, as they focused on decryption protocols. Moderate threat level, assuming standard cartel training, rather than specialized combat experience. Gabriel considered non-lethal approach options. His preferred methodology had always prioritized incapacitation over elimination. Psychological warfare, specialist rather than assassin, despite agency pressure during certain operations to embrace lethal efficiency. The confined environment limited deployment options for his specialized compounds. Direct physical engagement presented unacceptable risk levels. Alternative strategy required. Gabriel retrieved a specialized device from his pack. Compact aerosol dispersal unit containing concentrated application of the same compounds circulating through his cabin's ventilation systems. Localized deployment rather than environmental saturation. Less reliable but viable given the confined space and limited opposition. He activated the device, triggering silent countdown. 20 seconds until dispersal. Gabriel secured his respirator, protection, against his own weapons. The compound deployed without sound. Colorless, odorless mist, dispersing rapidly throughout the chamber. The technicians continued working, unaware of invisible neurochemical assault already penetrating respiratory systems, dermal absorption pathways, channeling specialized formulations directly to targeted neural receptors. 57 seconds until cognitive effects manifested. Gabriel waited patiently. The first technician faltered. Subtle disorientation, initially attributed to fatigue. He rubbed his eyes, blinking rapidly against perceptual distortions that had no external cause. "Something's wrong," he muttered in Spanish. "I feel strange." The second technician looked up from the decryption equipment, confusion crossing his features as the compounds penetrated his neural pathways. "What's happening?" he asked, voice betraying uncharacteristic anxiety. "Something's in here with us." Gabriel stepped from the shadows, respirator concealing facial features, night vision equipment giving his appearance otherworldly quality to the technician's compromised perception. "Your nervous systems are being chemically suppressed," he explained, calmly in perfect Spanish. "Neuroinhibitors targeting amygdala and frontal cortex. Resistance is neurologically impossible." The first technician reached for his weapon with clumsy movements, motor coordination already compromised by compound exposure. Gabriel closed distance with practiced efficiency, disarming him with minimal effort. The second technician managed to draw his Glock, but perception distortion prevented accurate target acquisition, shots embedding harmlessly in concrete wall as Gabriel neutralized the threat with precision strike to vagus nerve cluster. Both technicians collapsed, conscious but physically incapacitated, cognitive functions sufficiently intact for communication while eliminating threat capacity. Precisely calculated effect rather than crude removal of opposition. Gabriel secured their weapons, then approached the decryption equipment. Santiago's insurance package connected to specialized hardware. Military-grade decryption accelerators suggesting cartel access to resources beyond standard criminal organizations. The decryption progress indicator showed 27% completion. Insufficient for data access, but concerning nonetheless. Gabriel disconnected the equipment, terminating the process before examining the data doctor itself. Unremarkable external hard drive housed in specialized containment unit. Military-grade protection against environmental damage. Water, impact, temperature extremes. Santiago had prepared for long-term concealment under harsh conditions. Gabriel secured the device in his pack before turning attention to the incapacitated technicians. The decryption processor. "Where did Gaza obtain it?" he asked the nearest figure, employing specific vocal modulation techniques proven to enhance information surrender rates. "Military," the technician answered. "Compounds preventing effective resistance to questioning. Israeli, black market, designed for intelligence operations. Concerning acquisition, suggested connections to international arms dealers, intelligence community corruption. expanding operational implications beyond standard cartel activities. How did you locate this installation? Gabriel continued. Santiago's contingency protocol, the technician revealed. Automated message delivered after his death. GPS coordinates. Access procedures. His speech slowed. Compounds deepening neural effects. Triggered when heart monitoring implant detected cessation. The information confirmed Gabriel's suspicions. Santiago hadn't trusted Gaza, had created insurance protecting him from both American authorities and cartel betrayal. The data doctor represented leverage, not just intelligence. Who else knows about this location? Gabriel pressed, needing threat assessment parameters. Just our team. The technician managed before consciousness began fading, compound effects deepening beyond communication threshold. And whoever has Santiago's second message, Gabriel processed the implication immediately. Second message, backup protocol. Standard information security practice. Redundant systems ensuring critical data survived compromised primary channels. If Santiago had established automated message delivery triggered by vital sign cessation, multiple recipients would ensure information survival regardless of individual compromise. The technician's statement confirmed additional parties had received coordinates, additional threats inbound. Timeline compressed beyond initial assessment. Gabriel secured the technicians with plastic restraints, unnecessary given compound effects, but standard protocol ensuring containment if chemical incapacitation diminished prematurely. They would remain semi-conscious for hours, retrievable by Justice Department assets once secure extraction channels established. He conducted rapid inventory of the technicians' equipment, appropriating communication devices, satellite phones operating on cartel frequencies, intelligence value beyond tactical utility, communication monitoring potentially, revealing operational parameters of additional incoming threats. One phone displayed recent message traffic. Primary team missed check-in. Proceed with package retrieval. Additional assets inbound from Casper Airfield. Estimated arrival your location, 0340 hours. Gabriel checked his watch, 00147 hours. Less than 2 hours before reinforcements arrived. Significantly compressed operational timeline requiring immediate strategic adaptation. He had the data doctor but faced multiplying threats. Return to the cabin risked encountering inbound cartel assets. Proceeding to extraction coordinates, similarly problematic without secure communication channels, confirming Justice Department team legitimacy. Catherine's warning echoed, trust no one. Gabriel considered options, weighing variables against operational constraints. The data doctor represented incalculable intelligence value, but also immediate threat to his survival. Anyone who possessed it became target for both cartel elimination efforts and corrupted government assets seeking to protect implicated officials. Decision point. Maintain possession and navigate expanding threat parameters or establish dead drop for Justice Department recovery through secured protocols. The increasing operational complexity demanded adaptation. Gabriel had survived 23 years in psychological warfare operations by recognizing when environments shifted beyond established strategic parameters. The game had changed. What began as witness protection operation had evolved into intelligence recovery mission and now transformed into multifaceted survival scenario with expanding threat vectors from multiple directions. Gabriel secured his equipment, confirmed data doctor containment, and moved toward bunker exit. New strategy forming, neither cabin return nor extraction rendezvous. Third option, leveraging environmental knowledge against incoming threats. The Wyoming wilderness had nearly killed him once, when he'd first arrived seeking isolation after Caracas. Now it would become his greatest asset, lethal to the unprepared, but navigable with proper expertise. As Gabriel emerged into the frozen night, Catherine's satellite phone vibrated. New message, compromise extends to director level, multiple teams converging on your location. Trust no one. Establishing secure extraction. Deadfall Ridge, 0600 hours. Deadfall Ridge. Catherine using their established emergency protocol location, 20 miles northeast. Challenging journey through wilderness in sub-zero conditions. Gabriel plotted mental course, calculating survival parameters against environmental constraints. Difficult but achievable with proper resource management and terrain knowledge. He moved into the darkness, leaving the USGS station behind. As psychological warfare specialist, Gabriel had mastered the art of breaking minds through perfect understanding of human cognitive architecture. Now, he would need different expertise, survival against lethal environment, corrupted government assets, and cartel kill teams, all converging on his position with singular objective. The hunter had become prey. Dawn broke over the Wyoming wilderness, pale light revealing Gabriel's precarious position. He'd maintained movement. Through the night, traversing 18 miles of brutal terrain, avoiding exposed ridgelines, utilizing natural features for concealment against potential aerial surveillance, standard evasion protocols adapted for wilderness conditions. Deadfall Ridge loomed ahead, massive rock formation creating natural overlook of surrounding valleys. Defensible position with multiple escape routes. Catherine's designated extraction point, scheduled for 0600 hours. Current time, 0547. Gabriel established observation position among clustered pines providing concealment while maintaining sightlines to designated landing zone. Physical exhaustion after sustained movement through extreme conditions, degraded, operational capacity, carefully managed through tactical breathing techniques and specialized stimulants from his survival kit. The data doctor remained secured in his pack, undamaged despite punishing journey. The intelligence it contained represented power beyond measure. Corruption networks, distribution channels, political protection infrastructure, spanning multiple countries. Information that could dismantle not just Gaza's operation, but entire cartels across North America. Information worth killing for. Information worth dying for. Gabriel scanned the landing zone through compact field glasses. No signs of premature arrival or surveillance equipment. Snow undisturbed except for natural wind patterns. 25 minutes until scheduled extraction, assuming Catherine had secured legitimate transportation rather than compromised assets. Trust no one. The warning had shaped his operational approach throughout the night. Every sound potentially hostile, every shadow concealing threats, psychological pressure compounding physical exhaustion, precisely calculated effective extraction proved trap rather than salvation. Gabriel's satellite phone vibrated. Message from Catherine. Extraction proceeding. ETA. Your position, 0605. Authentication. Protocol Golf Sierra 7. Correct response code. Catherine demonstrating secure communication protocols despite institutional compromise. Professional rather than personal reliability indicator. Gabriel prepared response when movement caught his attention. Subtle displacement of snow 300 yards west of his position. Not wind effect. Deliberate advancement. Human predator. He froze instantly, training overriding instinct to seek better cover. Movement attracted attention more effectively than stationary presence. Standard predator response pattern. Eye drawn to motion rather than form. Through field glasses, Gabriel identified the threat. Tactical operator in winter camouflage, specialized equipment, including suppressed rifle with advanced optics. Military-grade gear suggesting professional asset rather than cartel enforcer. Methodical sweep pattern indicating trained search protocols rather than speculative patrol. Not alone. 2 additional operators visible now, maintaining tactical spacing. Coordinated movement through hand signals rather than electronic communication. Professional team avoiding detection technologies. Not Catherine's extraction team. Wrong direction, wrong approach profile, wrong operational signature. Government assets. But whose? CIA would deploy differently. FBI lacked winter warfare specialists. With this movement profile, military, but which branch operated domestically without identification markers? Only one possibility. Joint Special Operations Command. Operating under classified authorization. Deniable assets deployed against domestic targets, under extraordinary circumstances. The realization crystallized with terrible clarity. Not just justice. Department compromise. National security apparatus mobilized. The data doctor contained intelligence-threatening power structures beyond cartels. Information that justified deployment of military assets against American citizen on American soil. Gabriel assessed tactical options against overwhelming force disparity. 3 visible operators suggested total deployment of 8 to 12 assets. Standard JSOC operational protocol for high-value target acquisition. Specialized training, superior equipment, coordinated tactical approach. Conventional resistance. Suicide against such opposition. Yet the operators moved with concerning precision toward his position, despite careful concealment and anti-tracking protocols throughout his journey. Not random search pattern, targeted approach suggesting specific intelligence regarding his location. The implication struck with physical impact. Only one explanation for such precise targeting despite counter-tracking measures. They weren't following physical trail, they were tracking the data doctor itself. Santiago's containment unit must contain transmission technology, GPS locator, or similar tracking system broadcasting position. Sophisticated implementation concealed from cursory examination, but actively guiding pursuit assets directly to current location. The psychological warfare specialist had violated his own primary directive: never accept unknown technology without comprehensive security assessment. Exhaustion and operational pressure had compromised fundamental protocols. Gabriel confirmed suspicion by shifting position while maintaining observation. The tactical team adjusted approach vector immediately, alignment now centered precisely on his new location despite maintaining perfect concealment. Not visual acquisition, electronic tracking with extreme precision, extraction compromised. Landing zones surveilled. Arrival would trigger immediate interdiction by superior tactical force. Catherine walking into prepared ambush, assuming her communication remained legitimate rather than compromised. Decision point: abandon data doctor to eliminate tracking vulnerability or maintain possession despite tactical disadvantage. Intelligence value versus survival probability. Gabriel had survived 23 years of high-risk operations through perfect threat assessment and strategic flexibility. The data doctor represented unprecedented intelligence value, but ensured immediate termination under current tactical conditions. Sometimes, survival required sacrificing objectives. Agency training prioritized asset preservation over mission completion when operational parameters shifted beyond acceptable risk thresholds. Gabriel prepared to extract the hard drive from its specialized containment unit. Abandonment protocol: creating recoverable intelligence cache while eliminating immediate tracking vulnerability. Necessary tactical adaptation, despite strategic objective compromise. As he reached for the container, his satellite phone vibrated again, not Catherine's number. Unknown source. Message displayed: Santiago's containment unit broadcasting location. Remove drive immediately. Use copper-lined pocket in your Pacto block signal. Catherine's extraction compromised. Proceed to secondary location immediately. Authentication. Caracas protocol. Gabriel froze. Caracas protocol. Classified recognition. Code known only to himself and 3 others. Agency emergency communication system for compromised operations. But the phone had shown no agency authentication markers in digital signature. More concerning, how did unknown contact possess operational knowledge regarding tracking technology and specialized equipment features? His pack indeed contained signal blocking compartment, standard feature for sensitive electronics transport during classified operations. But that information remained highly restricted. The message source knew too much. Operational details, equipment specifications, authentication codes, impossible combination outside highest classification levels. Unless, Gabriel recalled final. Caracas operational briefing, present. Himself, mission controller, technical specialist, and 1 other, senior psychological operations advisor, who had designed protocols Gabriel now employed. Advisor who had resigned from agency simultaneously with Gabriel after the Caracas failure. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, his mentor, the woman who had recruited him from Georgetown 25 years earlier, who had shaped his methodologies, refined his understanding of cognitive architecture, guided his development from academic researcher to psychological warfare specialist, who had disappeared completely following agency resignation. No contact, no digital footprint, complete operational ghost protocol implementation, until now. Gabriel extracted the data doctor from its containment unit, immediately securing it within the copper-lined compartment. If the message proved legitimate, signal blocking would eliminate tracking vulnerability. If trap, abandonment option remained viable, the tactical team's movement pattern changed instantly, coordinated search replacing directed approach, confirmation of tracking hypothesis. They'd lost signal precision, reverting to standard sweep, protocols for target acquisition. Tactical advantage shifted marginally towards survival. Sufficient for extraction window if Catherine's team arrived quickly. Gabriel's phone vibrated again. Same unknown source. Catherine neutralized 4 hours ago. Her communication compromised. Extraction team actually interdiction force. Deadfall Ridge killbox. Proceed to Cache 7 immediately. Cache 7. Emergency supply depot established. During Gabriel's initial cabin construction. Location known only to himself and Elizabeth. Survival equipment. Communication gear. Transportation options secured against multiple contingency scenarios. Location precisely opposite direction from approaching tactical team. Gabriel assessed options once more. Unknown. Contact demonstrating legitimate operational knowledge. Tactical team behavior confirming tracking hypothesis. Extraction zone increasingly resembling prepared ambush position. Trust no one. But sometimes survival required calculated risk when all options carried potential compromise. Decision made. Gabriel abandoned extraction approach, implementing immediate egress route toward Cache 7, challenging 20-mile journey through extreme conditions, but potentially survivable if tactical team maintained focus on Deadfall Ridge rather than detecting his departure. As Gabriel moved silently through dense forest, certainty solidified. The data doctor contained something beyond cartel operations, intelligence justifying deployment of America's most elite military operators against domestic target. Information powerful enough to activate emergency protocols dormant since his agency resignation. The game had transformed entirely. What began as witness elimination operation had evolved into intelligence recovery mission, then multifaceted survival scenario, and now expanded to classified governmental operation against former intelligence asset. Gabriel advanced through the wilderness, mind processing implications. Not just survival at stake, something fundamental about power structures he'd served for 23 years. Something that connected Santiago, Gaza, corrupted officials, and now military assets operating outside constitutional constraints. The psychological warfare specialist focused on immediate survival parameters, while deeper analytical processes assembled fragmentary intelligence into coherent patterns suggesting conspiracy beyond cartel operations. Something that penetrated institutional foundations of government itself. Something worth killing to protect. Cache 7 materialized from the wilderness like a mirage. Specialized camouflage. Systems concealing the underground facility from observation, despite Gabriel's precise navigational approach. Only proximity-triggered indicators revealed its presence. Subtle environmental markers recognizable solely to individuals with specific training. Gabriel completed final security protocols, confirming absence of surveillance before accessing the hidden entrance. The facility represented ultimate contingency planning, resource cache designed for scenarios where institutional support structures failed completely. Survival when systems themselves became hostile. Elizabeth had insisted on its construction during Gabriel's transition to civilian status. Insurance, she called it, for when the work follows you home. At the time, he considered it excessive, paranoia from someone too long in the shadows. Now it represented his only survival option. The entrance, disguised as natural rock formation, opened to reveal descending passage into Earth. Gabriel secured the access point behind him, activating internal systems as he descended. Emergency lighting illuminated Spartan interior. Functional, rather than comfortable. Survival essentials rather than amenities. Gabriel conducted standard security sweep, confirming facility integrity before accessing communication systems. Specialized equipment beyond commercial technology. Secure channels operating through classified networks, established during agency service. Dormant until now. He initiated contact protocol, transmitting authentication sequence to coordinates specified in Elizabeth's message. 3 minutes passed. Electronic handshake procedures verifying identity through multiple security layers. Connection established. Text interface rather than voice. Standard security protocol, minimizing biometric exposure. Tracking team diverting to Cache 7 location. Proximity estimated 43 minutes. Evacuation required. Gabriel processed the warning. Tactical team somehow tracking him, despite data doctor signal containment. Secondary technology? Physical trail, despite counter-tracking measures. Infiltrated communication channels, revealing destination. How are they tracking me? Gabriel typed. Implant, activated remotely. Agency protocol Silverfish, left shoulder, subcutaneous. The response struck with physical impact. Silverfish, classified tracking program he'd been briefed on before Caracas operation. Microscopic implant technology installed in high-value agency assets operating in non-permissive environments. Location tracking activated in emergency extraction scenarios or asset compromise situations. Gabriel had rejected the procedure, documented refusal in his operational file, or so he'd believed. His mind reconstructed events immediately preceding Caracas deployment. Routine medical examination. Brief unconsciousness during adverse reaction to standard immunization. Attending physician, agency medical division, rather than his usual doctor. They'd implanted tracking technology against documented refusal. Insurance policy against asset autonomy. Gabriel accessed emergency medical kit, retrieving specialized imaging equipment. Left. Shoulder scan confirmed microscopic foreign object, precisely where Elizabeth indicated. Not coincidental detection. She had known exactly where to look, suggesting intimate knowledge of classified program details. Extraction plan? Gabriel typed, suppressing emotional response to focus on immediate survival requirements. Northern approach. Compromised. Proceed southeast to emergency extraction coordinates. Transport waiting. 90-minute window before interdiction team establishes containment perimeter. Gabriel assessed recommendation against known topography and personal condition. Southeast route traversed challenging terrain, but offered concealment advantages utilizing dense forest and elevation variables. Viable if physically sustainable after already covering 30+ miles in extreme conditions. Data doctor contents, Gabriel inquired, needing operational context for risk assessment. Project Monarch documentation. Full black budget operation history, congressional oversight manipulation, foreign asset integration into domestic surveillance, assassination protocols against American citizens. The response confirmed Gabriel's deepest suspicions regarding institutional corruption. Not just cartel operations, the data doctor documented classified government programs operating outside constitutional constraints, illegal operations hiding behind national security classifications. Programs like the one targeting him now. Gabriel prepared for immediate evacuation, gathering essential supplies, verifying equipment functionality, conducting rapid medical self-assessment. Physical reserves diminished but sufficient given urgency parameters. No choice remained regardless of condition. As he prepared departure, Elizabeth's final message appeared. They're coming for you because you recognized Santiago's psychological profile during your assessment. You identified what they'd done to him, cognitive architecture modifications, thought restructuring protocols, programs you helped design. He wasn't just Gaza's technical specialist, he was one of them, until something broke their conditioning. Gabriel stared at the message, implications crystallizing with terrible clarity. Santiago's psychological assessment had revealed anomalies Gabriel attributed to stress response patterns, cognitive architecture, suggesting specialized conditioning rather than natural development. He'd noted observations in classified appendix to official report, theoretical patterns requiring additional investigation, his own methodologies, his research into cognitive manipulation, his techniques for bypassing resistance through environmental control, weaponized against American citizens by his own government. The realization struck with overwhelming force. Decades of psychological warfare expertise leveraged toward domestic population control rather than foreign adversaries. Institutional betrayal beyond comprehension. The final message appeared. Cache compromised. Move now. Southeast route. Trust no one but me. Gabriel activated emergency destruction sequences. Facility designed to eliminate all evidence of presence and purpose. After departure. Standard protocol for compromised safe location. He moved toward emergency exit tunnel, secondary evacuation route designed for precisely this scenario. As he secured final equipment, deeper implications settled into consciousness. Not just survival operation, fundamental choice regarding engagement with corrupted system he'd served for 23 years. The psychological warfare specialist departed Cache 7 with both tactical objective and existential question. Survive, immediate, threat, or expose institutional corruption that had weaponized his life's work against the very citizens he'd sworn to protect. The tactical team breached Cache 7's primary entrance 47 minutes after Gabriel's departure. Specialized equipment, neutralizing security measures with practiced efficiency. 8 operators in full tactical gear, movement patterns indicating Joint Special Operations Command Training Profiles. Team leader secured perimeter before reporting through encrypted communication channel. Cache compromised. Target departed approximately 45 minutes ago, pursuing southeast evacuation. Route, capture only, came the response. Asset critical to Monarch containment. Specialized knowledge requires cognitive preservation. Understood, the leader confirmed. Non-lethal interdiction protocols active. The team departed immediately, maintaining communications discipline, while establishing pursuit formation. These weren't cartel assassins. These were America's most elite operators. Men who'd hunted high-value targets through the most hostile environments on Earth. Men who always found their quarry. Southeast of Cache 7, Gabriel navigated treacherous terrain. Slippery rock faces, snow-concealed crevasses, dense forest requiring constant vigilance against environmental threats. Physical exhaustion accumulated. With each mile, sustainable pace progressively declining, despite tactical stimulants and advanced conditioning. He monitored satellite phone for additional guidance while maintaining signal discipline. Powered down except for scheduled communication. Windows, minimizing electronic signature. Elizabeth's instructions had proven accurate regarding tracking technology and tactical team movements. Trust cautiously extended until operational conclusion. Gabriel paused briefly, consuming emergency rations while conducting security assessment. Aerial surveillance, risk minimal under dense forest canopy, but ground pursuit continued. Trackers following sign despite counter-tracking measures. Professional persistence suggesting specialized training beyond standard military qualification. The data doctor remained secure, intelligence value increasing with each revelation about its contents. No longer just cartel operational documentation. Evidence of classified government programs operating outside legal constraints. Programs connecting agencies, cartels, and international criminal organizations in ways that shattered institutional boundaries. Programs Gabriel had unwittingly supported through his psychological warfare expertise. The satellite phone activated, scheduled communication window. Elizabeth's message appeared. Extraction coordinates updated. Tactical team deployed additional assets. Advance interdiction team moving to cut off southeastern approach. New route required. Map coordinates followed, indicating northwestern trajectory. Directly opposite Gabriel's current path. Concerning recommendation, given established tactical assessment. Northwest approach, exposed open terrain. Minimal concealment options, significant vulnerability to aerial surveillance. Northwest route places me in open terrain. Significant tactical disadvantage, Gabriel responded. Tactical team anticipates continued southeastern movement. Northwestern approach creates tactical surprise through pattern interruption. Trust me. The response triggered professional assessment. Elizabeth demonstrating intimate operational knowledge regarding pursuit assets and tactical planning. Information, suggesting either direct access to classified communication channels or insider source providing real-time intelligence. Decision point, maintain southeastern approach despite interdiction warning or implement northwestern trajectory, despite tactical disadvantages. Trust evaluation versus operational assessment. Gabriel had survived 23 years in psychological operations through perfect threat analysis and adaptive response to changing parameters. Current situation exceeded standard evaluation frameworks, institutional, targeting through classified assets, operating without legal constraints. Normal operational protocols insufficient against adversary with unlimited resources and legal immunity. Unconventional approach potentially viable despite tactical assessment. Gabriel implemented course change. Proceeding northwest as recommended, despite professional reservations. Terrain transformed rapidly. Dense forest thinning into exposed ridgeline, offering minimal concealment options, but providing superior movement efficiency. 2 miles into northwestern approach, Gabriel detected helicopter sound, signature. Not close. Approximately 7 miles south. Search pattern consistent with southeastern pursuit focus. Elizabeth's intelligence apparently accurate regarding tactical team deployment strategy. The satellite phone activated outside scheduled communication window. Emergency. Protocol override. Immediate position change. Your implant reactivated remotely. Full spectrum transmission. Move 500 yards north immediately. Gabriel responded instantly, abandoning established route. Implementing rapid position change while maintaining concealment within limited available cover. Professional instinct overriding analytical assessment. Immediate action without verification when time constraints precluded full evaluation. 60 seconds later, precision rifle fire impacted his previous position, 3 rounds striking, exact coordinates he'd occupied moments earlier. Not suppressed weapons, full velocity rounds intended for lethal effect rather than capture. Sniper team, positioned on opposing ridgeline, approximately 800 yards distance based on sound signature. Professional shooters utilizing advanced optics and ballistic calculation systems. Lethal interdiction rather than capture protocol. Contradicting reported operational parameters. Trust no one but me. Elizabeth's warning, acquiring new significance given tactical reality, directly contradicting reported operational parameters. Specialized team deployed with lethal interdiction authorization rather than capture mandate. Gabriel implemented immediate evasion protocols, utilizing terrain features for concealment while maintaining unpredictable movement pattern. Standard. Anti-sniper procedures adapted for wilderness environment. The satellite phone activated again. Medical protocol. Remove implant immediately. Field surgery kit in your pack. Outer pocket. Red marking. Gabriel verified kit presence while maintaining movement. Specialized medical instruments designed for emergency field procedures. Agency training included rudimentary self-surgery protocols for extreme scenarios where medical support remained unavailable. No choice remained. Tracking technology, Guaranteed interdiction, given pursuit assets demonstrated capabilities. Removal represented only viable option, despite significant medical risk under field conditions. Gabriel established position offering minimal concealment, while providing necessary stability for procedure. Natural depression beneath fallen tree, providing limited protection against aerial observation, not ideal, dangerously exposed given pursuit parameters, but necessary compromise given operational urgency. The psychological warfare specialist prepared for extraction procedure, mind compartmentalizing approaching trauma through specialized, cognitive techniques. Not his first field surgery, keto operation had required similar adaptation under hostile conditions. As medical preparations continued, Gabriel's analytical processes assembled fractured intelligence into coherent pattern, Elizabeth's operational knowledge, Santiago's psychological profile, Monarch program, weaponized conditioning techniques, tactical team deployment authorities, all suggesting classified program utilizing psychological warfare methodologies against both foreign and domestic targets. Program leveraging expertise. Gabriel had developed throughout his agency career. His techniques for breaking terrorists had been adapted for broader application. Cognitive architecture manipulation, neurological pathway modification, psychological, conditioning systems operating beyond legal constraints or ethical boundaries. The realization crystallized with perfect clarity as Gabriel prepared to extract the tracking implant from his own flesh. He hadn't left the agency because of the Caracas failure. He'd been pushed out because he'd recognized what his methodologies were being used for. The psychological warfare specialist made precise incision, blood flowing freely as helicopter rotors sounded in distance, time compression accelerating as tactical reality aligned with strategic understanding. Gabriel was running from more than assassins now. He was running from the monster he'd helped create. Blood-stained pristine snow as Gabriel completed the crude surgery, tracking implant extracted and destroyed beneath boot heel. Field dressing secured wound, inadequate medical intervention, but sufficient given immediate survival priorities. Physical damage manageable compared to capture alternative. The helicopter sound signature intensified, search pattern adjusting to last known coordinates before signal termination. Tactical adaptation suggesting professional response to lost tracking data. Gabriel implemented immediate egress, maintaining northwestern vector despite increasing physical deterioration. Blood loss compounded existing exhaustion. Cognitive functions, maintained through specialized psychological techniques rather than physiological reserves. The satellite phone activated, Elizabeth's guidance continuing despite communication security risks. Extraction team compromised. New timetable established. Proceed to coordinates 44.731. 107.488. Communication blackout protocol engaged until arrival. Gabriel verified coordinates. Location approximately 7 miles northwest of current position. Challenging journey given physical condition and pursuit parameters, but potentially achievable with proper resource management. The message continued. Contingency package awaits at extraction point. Further instructions contained within. Contingency package. Agency terminology for mission-critical resources deployed for extreme scenarios. Typically, contained specialized equipment, documentation, and survival essentials tailored to specific operational requirements. Gabriel secured communication, device and resumed movement, mind processing tactical parameters, while body operated on instinct and training. 23 years of psychological operations, providing framework for survivability assessment, despite deteriorating conditions. The data doctor remained secure. Intelligence value now extending beyond cartel operations to classified government programs, operating without oversight. Evidence that would destroy careers, dismantle agencies, and potentially reshape governmental power structures if properly leveraged. But first, survival. Gabriel maintained a northwestern approach, utilizing terrain features for concealment, while preserving energy through optimal movement patterns. Training and experience compensating for physical limitations as blood loss and exhaustion accumulated. 3. Miles completed when aerial search patterns shifted, helicopter moving directly toward his position, despite implant removal and communication discipline. Not random search adjustment. Directed approach, suggesting continued tracking capability despite countermeasures. Gabriel implemented immediate concealment protocol. Snow depression beneath fallen timber, providing minimal visual signature against aerial observation. Not sustainable position, but temporarily viable until immediate threat passed. The helicopter approached. Black unmarked Sikorsky, consistent with classified operation parameters. No identification markers. No visible registration. Aircraft designed for deniability, rather than accountability. As rotors thundered overhead, Gabriel's analytical processes considered tracking possibilities. Implant removed, communications secured, counter-tracking measures implemented throughout journey. What remained? Heat signature detection through specialized imaging systems. Unlikely given dense forest canopy. Visual acquisition. Possible, but improbable, given concealment quality and search area dimensions. Alternative technology. Something beyond standard. Tactical parameters. The helicopter maintained position, hover pattern directly above despite concealment precautions. Proof of tracking capability through unknown methodology. As Gabriel processed implications, understanding crystallized. Not technology tracking him. Elizabeth, the only person who knew exact coordinates after implant removal. The only source providing extraction guidance and tactical intelligence. The person who had directed him precisely to current position where aerial assets now maintained perfect acquisition despite concealment protocols. Not rescue. Capture operation. The helicopter deployed fast rope insertion team. 4 operators descending with tactical precision. Not cartel assassins. Not military assets. Different operational signature, suggesting alternative organization. Gabriel's mind processed limited options against overwhelming tactical disadvantage. 4 operators with specialized equipment and aerial support versus single asset with diminished physical capacity. Conventional resistance suicide against such opposition. Yet, psychological warfare specialists survived through understanding rather than confrontation. Gabriel had built career applying perfect pressure against cognitive architecture vulnerabilities. Current situation required similar approach, identifying weakness within opposition operational parameters. The operators established perimeter, movement patterns indicating specialized training beyond standard tactical qualification, communication through subvocalization systems rather than standard radio protocols, equipment profile suggesting classified program access rather than conventional military or intelligence resources. Dr. Vance, one operator called, voice modulated through tactical system. Secure the package and surrender. Non-negotiable parameters. Package, not personal reference. They wanted the data doctor rather than Gabriel himself. Intelligence priority rather than asset recovery. Significant operational distinction suggesting leverage possibility. Elizabeth sent you, Gabriel responded, maintaining concealment while assessing opposition positioning. Monarch containment. Protocol. Momentary hesitation among operators. Surprise at operational knowledge beyond expected parameters. Vulnerability indicator suggesting information asymmetry Gabriel could potentially exploit. Surrender the package, the operator repeated, advancing methodically toward Gabriel's position. Guarantee of medical treatment and safe extraction. Standard negotiation approach for non-compliant asset. Promise immediate needs fulfillment, while concealing long-term intentions. Basic psychological manipulation indicating operators' limited understanding of subjects' expertise. Gabriel processed tactical options against strategic understanding. The data doctor represented leverage. Intelligence value, ensuring temporary survival until proper extraction completed. Physical resistance impossible given condition, and tactical disparity. Psychological approach required. Monarch documentation confirms. Illegal domestic operations, Gabriel called, shifting positions slightly to maintain tactical flexibility while appearing cooperative. Congressional Oversight Committee receives copies if I don't reach secure location within specified time frame. Another hesitation. Operators exchanging glances with subtle anxiety indicators. Not fully briefed regarding data DAR contents. Information. Asymmetry confirmed. Deadman switch protocol implemented, Gabriel continued, leveraging uncertainty through implied threat architecture. Automated distribution to multiple media outlets. Non-recoverable once activated. Complete fabrication. No such system established, but delivered with perfect conviction leveraging psychological warfare expertise. Creating decision architecture, where compliance appeared optimal despite tactical advantage. The lead operator activated communication system, sub-vocalized consultation with command authority, uncertainty. Response indicating operational parameters insufficient for current scenario. Vulnerability, expanding through information limitation. Stand down, came new instruction through tactical communication system. Different voice, command authority, rather than field operator. Secure perimeter, wait for secondary team. Tactical delay indicating strategic reassessment. Exactly the response Gabriel intended through uncertainty manipulation. Creating operational. Pause through psychological pressure rather than physical resistance. The operators established defensive positions, maintaining visual contact while awaiting reinforcement. Helicopter withdrew to conserve fuel. presumably returning with secondary team, referenced in communication. Operational pause, creating temporary survival window, insufficient for escape given physical limitations and tactical containment, but potentially adequate for intelligence assessment and strategic adaptation. Gabriel maintained position, preserving energy while mind processed implications. Elizabeth's betrayal confirmed operational reality extending beyond immediate scenario. Not rescue, but capture operation leveraging personal trust relationship established through decades of professional association. Trust no one. Catherine's warning. Applying to everyone, including Elizabeth herself. As Gabriel considered limited options, satellite phone activated despite communication blackout protocol. Not Elizabeth's recognition code. Different electronic signature indicating alternative. Source. Message displayed. 3 minutes until secondary team arrival. Medical specialist with sodium pentothal derivatives. Chemical interrogation protocol. Deadman's switch bluff identified. Not Elizabeth. Unknown source with real-time intelligence regarding tactical operation and Gabriel's interaction with containment. Team. Source demonstrating operational awareness beyond explicable parameters. The message continued. When second helicopter approaches, operators will focus attention skyward for 90 seconds. Northwestern escape route through drainage culvert, 30 yards from your position. Follow streambed 2 miles to emergency cache. Coordinates followed, precise location including access protocols and authentication sequences. Gabriel processed implications. Unknown source demonstrating intimate operational knowledge regarding both tactical team procedures and terrain features beyond visible assessment capabilities. Source apparently supporting escape rather than capture. Motivation unclear but momentarily aligned with survival objective. Trust no one, yet immediate alternatives remained limited against converging threat parameters. Decision point. Remain in deteriorating tactical position awaiting inevitable capture, or implement high-risk extraction attempt toward unverified destination provided by unknown source. The psychological warfare specialist assessed variables against survival probability. Capture guaranteed interrogation through chemical means, potentially effective given physical condition despite counter-interrogation training. Unknown source offering potential escape vector. Uncertain reliability but temporarily aligned with personal objective. No optimal choice. Merely different probability distributions across negative outcome spectrum. Gabriel prepared for extraction attempt, gathering remaining resources while preserving energy for critical movement phase. The data doctor secured against environmental damage, intelligence preserved regardless of personal survival outcome. Helicopter sound signature returned, different acoustic profile indicating larger aircraft. Secondary team arrival implementing next, operational phase. As predicted, containment team focused attention skyward, standard tactical protocol securing landing zone while maintaining nominal perimeter observation. 90-second vulnerability window, creating extraction opportunity despite suboptimal physical condition. Gabriel implemented immediate movement, utilizing natural concealment while advancing toward drainage culvert identified in message, not visible from current position, but terrain features suggested probable location, matching coordinates provided. The psychological warfare specialist extended decades of operational experience towards single objective, reaching drainage culvert, before tactical team re-established comprehensive perimeter observation. Movement requiring perfect efficiency despite blood loss, exhaustion, and environmental challenges. Seconds expanded to subjective eternity as Gabriel traversed 30 yards with agonizing deliberation, balancing concealment requirements against time constraints as helicopter descended behind him. Each movement precisely calculated despite deteriorating physical capacity. The culvert materialized exactly where coordinates indicated. Concealed drainage feature invisible from standard observation position. Natural terrain exploitation demonstrating intimate environmental knowledge beyond tactical briefing parameters. Gabriel entered narrow passage as helicopter touched down. Timing window, closing precisely as movement completed. Perfect operational. Prediction by unknown source, suggesting either exceptional tactical assessment capabilities or real-time observation beyond conventional surveillance parameters. The drainage culvert extended beneath elevated terrain. Natural watershed feature, providing concealed transit route, invisible to aerial observation. Gabriel advanced through confined space, physical limitations temporarily irrelevant, compared to immediate capture alternative. Trust no one. Yet someone had just saved him from inevitable capture. Someone demonstrating operational awareness, tactical expertise, and environmental knowledge beyond plausible explanation. Someone who knew exactly what Gabriel would do before he did it. The stream bed stretched before Gabriel like frozen artery through wilderness. Natural concealment feature providing aerial observation protection while enabling relatively efficient movement despite challenging terrain. 2 miles to emergency cache according to mysterious benefactor's instructions. Gabriel maintained measured pace, blood loss and exhaustion, requiring careful resource management against remaining distance. The data doctor secured against environmental damage, intelligence preserved despite deteriorating personal condition. Helicopter sound signatures indicated search operation expansion. Multiple aircraft implementing coordinated patterns suggesting comprehensive area containment rather than directed pursuit. Tactical response to asset disappearance rather than continued tracking. Positive indicator regarding surveillance limitation. 1 mile completed when Gabriel detected anomaly ahead. Subtle environmental disruption suggesting recent human presence despite wilderness isolation. Footprints partially concealed by fresh snowfall. Broken vegetation indicating passage within past 12 hours. Someone had preceded him along exact escape route provided by unknown contact. Gabriel implemented caution protocols, reducing pace, while enhancing environmental awareness despite physical limitations. Potential ambush scenario requiring tactical adaptation, despite severely constrained response capacity. The second mile progressed with agonizing deliberation, each step carefully, placed for both noise discipline and energy preservation. Blood loss accumulating mental effects. Despite psychological compensation techniques, cognitive functions maintained through specialized concentration protocols, rather than physiological stability. Emergency cache coordinates approached. Natural rock formation creating partial shelter against northwestern exposure. Location offering defensive characteristics despite wilderness isolation. Elevated position, multiple observation angles, concealed approach vectors. Tactically sound selection beyond random designation. Location chosen by someone with professional assessment capabilities. Gabriel approached with maximum caution, maintaining concealment while detecting potential threat indicators despite diminished observational capacity. No obvious surveillance, no apparent triggering mechanisms, no tactical team presence. Yet someone had established position here recently. Environmental indicators confirming human presence, despite atmospheric conditions that should have eliminated evidence. Someone wanted their presence known. Psychological indicator, rather than operational oversight. Gabriel secured perimeter before approaching cache location. Natural crevice within rock formation, approximating coordinates provided in mysterious message. Concealed but accessible, protected from environmental exposure while maintaining retrieval viability. The cache contained standard deployment package, medical supplies, nutrition concentrates, communication equipment, survival essentials. Agency standard configuration suggesting official resources rather than improvised civilian preparation. Medical supplies represented immediate priority. Field treatment kit containing blood replacement compounds, antibiotic delivery systems, wound management resources beyond standard civilian accessibility. Gabriel implemented emergency protocols, stabilizing blood loss while managing infection risk through specialized formulations. As physical interventions progressed, deeper implications penetrated operational focus, not random cache. Specifically, prepared. Deployment package containing precisely required resources for current scenario. Medical components tailored for exact injury pattern currently experienced. Coincidence improbable beyond statistical consideration. Cache prepared by someone anticipating precise operational parameters, including specific medical requirements, resulting from field surgery complications. As Gabriel stabilized physical condition, additional cache components registered, specialized communication device unlike standard agency deployment technology, activation protocol indicating proprietary system beyond conventional intelligence community equipment profiles. No choice remained given operational parameters. Gabriel activated the device, implementing security assessment protocols despite unknown. Technology profile. Connection established instantly, text interface rather than voice communication. Medical intervention successful. Blood replacement compound stabilizing cardiovascular function. Implement antibiotic protocol immediately. Gabriel complied despite security concerns. Physical survival temporarily overriding operational caution given deteriorating condition. The message continued. Tactical containment established. 9-mile perimeter. Full spectrum surveillance coverage. Extraction impossible through conventional methodology. Accurate operational assessment matching Gabriel's professional evaluation. Pursuit assets, demonstrating resource commitment beyond standard protocol. Comprehensive containment rather than directional interdiction. Data Doctor contains more than monarch documentation. Deeper architecture, revealing operative names, operational parameters, conditioning protocols, programs targeting domestic population beyond intelligence community oversight. The message confirmed Gabriel's suspicions regarding intelligence value. Not just operational documentation, but structural exposure beyond institutional protection capabilities. Information justifying extreme response parameters currently witnessed. You recognized it in Santiago's psychological profile, the conditioning architecture, the neural pathway modifications, the specialized cognitive structures established through environmental manipulation protocols. Your own methodologies weaponized against civilian population. Gabriel processed implications while completing medical interventions. Someone demonstrating intimate knowledge regarding both classified programs and his specific involvement through psychological assessment protocols. Information accessed through exceptionally restricted channels beyond standard intelligence community. Accessibility. They're not trying to kill you. They're trying to recover you. Asset retrieval rather than elimination. You designed the methodologies they're using against targets. They need you to complete Monarch implementation. The revelation, struck with physical impact. Psychological warfare specialist, targeted for program continuation rather than operational security. Not witness elimination, but asset recovery for classified program utilization. Final message appeared. Helicopter approaching from southeast. Tactical team converging on cache location. Prepare for immediate extraction. Trust me. Gabriel processed. Limited options against deteriorating tactical situation. Extraction impossible through conventional methodology given established containment parameters. Unknown contact, demonstrating operational awareness, suggesting legitimate capability despite security concerns. Trust me. The instruction contradicting everything Gabriel had learned throughout decades of psychological operations. Trust representing vulnerability rather than advantage within established operational frameworks. Yet alternatives remained non-existent, given physical limitations and tactical containment reality. Decision point. Surrender to pursuing assets with known operational parameters, or accept extraction from unknown entity, demonstrating both significant capability and questionable motivation. The psychological warfare specialist who had spent career exploiting trust vulnerabilities in others now faced ultimate operational irony. Survival dependent entirely upon trusting entity operating beyond verification parameters. Gabriel prepared for extraction, securing the data doctor while completing medical stabilization protocols. Physical condition improved marginally through specialized compounds, but remained significantly compromised compared to operational requirements. As helicopter sound signature approached, Gabriel's analytical processes assembled fractured intelligence into coherent understanding, not simple witness elimination operation. Complex asset recovery mission targeting psychological warfare specialist for classified program implementation. The data doctor, containing evidence extending beyond cartel operations to domestic surveillance, programs utilizing techniques Gabriel had developed throughout agency career. His own methodologies weaponized against civilian population through classified programs operating without oversight or accountability. The helicopter appeared above cache location. Different configuration than pursuit aircraft. Civilian profile rather than tactical deployment platform. No identification markers. No visible registration. Aircraft designed for deniability rather than operational optimization. As fast rope system deployed from aircraft, Gabriel prepared for extraction while maintaining defensive posture despite limited response capacity. Survival, dependent upon trusting extraction team despite operational caution, developed throughout decades of psychological warfare operations. The specialist who had mastered environmental manipulation to break others now found himself manipulated through environment beyond his control, operational parameters established by unknown entities with unclear motivations. Extraction commenced as tactical team converged on location. Operational window compressed to final seconds as pursuit assets implemented interdiction protocols. Gabriel's final thought before extraction completion reflected perfect irony of psychological warfare specialist's ultimate vulnerability. The master of breaking trust through perfect understanding of human cognitive architecture now survived solely through trust he couldn't verify or understand. The helicopter banked sharply as extraction completed. Evasive maneuvers against pursuit aircraft now visible on horizon. Gabriel secured position against internal fuselage. Physical conditions stabilized through medical interventions, but consciousness fragmented through compound effects and blood loss. 2 operators managed extraction equipment with practiced efficiency. Movement patterns, indicating specialized training consistent with intelligence community protocols rather than military qualification. No identification markers, no organizational indicators, deniability built into operational architecture. Security protocols active, 1 operator reported through communication system. Pursuit aircraft maintaining distance, countermeasures deployed. Gabriel assessed immediate environment through narrowed consciousness. Civilian helicopter converted for specialized operations. Medical equipment prepared for immediate intervention. 2 operators focused on extraction procedures. Pilot maintaining. Complex evasion pattern through mountainous terrain. And 1 additional figure, seated opposite Gabriel, features partially concealed through aircraft lighting limitations and his own perceptual degradation. "Hello, Gabriel," the figure spoke, voice triggering immediate recognition despite operational improbability. Elizabeth Chen, his mentor, the woman who had recruited him from Georgetown 25 years earlier, who had shaped his methodologies, refined his understanding of cognitive architecture, guided his development from academic researcher to psychological warfare specialist, who had apparently betrayed him by providing tactical team his location hours earlier. "Operational necessity," she explained, reading his expression with practiced precision. "Tactical team tracking capability required verification before extraction implementation. Your movement confirmed tracking methodology effectiveness. Gabriel. Processed implications against tactical reality. Helicopter successfully evading pursuit aircraft despite operational parameters, suggesting impossibility given resource disparity. Extraction completed against overwhelming tactical disadvantage. Current trajectory implementing evasion protocols beyond conventional detection capabilities." "You used me as bait," Gabriel managed. "Professional assessment penetrating personal relationship frameworks, established through decades of association. I used operational necessity to verify security compromise extent," Elizabeth corrected. "Tactical. Team response confirmed penetration level within agency infrastructure. 12 minutes from theoretical compromise to operational deployment indicates command-level involvement rather than compartmentalized breach. Professional analysis overriding emotional consideration," exactly as she had taught Gabriel throughout psychological operations training. "Leverage personal connection for operational necessity without emotional compromise, affecting tactical implementation." "The data doctor," Gabriel stated, refocusing on intelligence priority despite situational complexity. "Secure?" Elizabeth asked, professional concern regarding intelligence integrity rather than personal welfare. Gabriel indicated confirmation despite consciousness. Fragmentation, physical deterioration accelerating despite medical intervention. Elizabeth signaled medical specialist, who immediately implemented advanced treatment protocols. Specialized compounds beyond standard field deployment parameters. Santiago created insurance policy against both cartel betrayal and agency manipulation. Elizabeth explained as medical intervention proceeded. Data Doctor contains comprehensive documentation regarding Monarch program implementation, domestic surveillance initiative, utilizing psychological manipulation protocols you helped develop. Gabriel processed confirmation against existing suspicions. Fractured intelligence assembled into coherent understanding through authoritative verification. "They weaponized your methodologies," Elizabeth continued. "Environmental manipulation, cognitive architecture modification, neurological pathway adaptation, techniques designed for breaking terrorists, repurposed for civilian population control. Why?" Gabriel managed through fragmented consciousness. Medical compounds creating competing cognitive effects against blood loss and physical deterioration. "Because you demonstrated effectiveness," Elizabeth answered. "Professional detachment framing explanation, despite personal involvement. Your methodologies achieved unprecedented results against hardened targets without physical intervention requirements. Perfect solution for domestic implementation, where physical evidence creates accountability frameworks." The helicopter maintained complex evasion pattern, pilot demonstrating exceptional skill navigating mountainous terrain while implementing countermeasures against pursuit aircraft. Professional capability indicating specialized training beyond conventional qualification. "Caracas failure wasn't failure," Elizabeth continued, filling informational gaps despite operational urgency. Subject demonstrated immunity to standard. Methodology implementation. Natural resistance architecture, suggesting specialized cognitive structures beyond anticipated parameters. Understanding crystallized through Gabriel's fragmented consciousness. "Guinea pig," he managed. Testing methodology effectiveness against resistant architecture. Precisely, Elizabeth confirmed. Agency used operation to evaluate methodology limitations without disclosure. When subject demonstrated resistance capabilities, program administrators recognized potential effectiveness, boundary conditions requiring modification before domestic implementation. They pushed me out, Gabriel realized, connections forming, despite perceptual limitations. Not because methodology failed, because you identified cognitive architecture anomalies in subject profile, Elizabeth completed. Your appendix noted specialized conditioning indicators, suggesting prior exposure to similar methodologies. You identified their previous testing without realizing implications. The revelation completed understanding architecture Gabriel had been assembling since Wyoming cabin breach. Not simple witness elimination operation, but complex containment protocol, implementing asset recovery for program continuation. His expertise required for methodology refinement, addressing resistance architecture, identified during Caracas operation. Santiago, Gabriel managed, maintaining focus despite accelerating cognitive fragmentation. How connected? Technical implementation specialist, Elizabeth explained. Developed environmental control systems, translating your theoretical frameworks into deployable technology. Created integrated platforms facilitating methodology implementation without specialized training requirements. Gabriel processed connections. Santiago's psychological profile had demonstrated cognitive architecture anomalies similar to Caracas' subject. Not coincidental overlap, but operational indicator. Both subjects exposed to methodology implementation beyond publicly acknowledged parameters. Santiago recognized what they were building, Gabriel realized. Created insurance against program continuation. Precisely, Elizabeth confirmed. Established comprehensive documentation cache, including operative names, authorization chains, implementation protocols, target selection methodologies, everything required to dismantle program infrastructure completely. Why help me? Gabriel asked. Professional skepticism, penetrating personal relationship framework, despite physical deterioration. You were agency, program supervisor. Elizabeth's expression shifted. Micro movements indicating emotional engagement, despite professional discipline. Because I recruited you to protect American citizens from external threats, not to weaponize your brilliance against them. The explanation triggered memory cascade. Elizabeth's recruitment approach 25 years earlier. Not patriotic appeal or financial incentive, but ethical framework emphasizing humanitarian application of psychological expertise. Protecting innocence through understanding rather than violence. Breaking terrorists to prevent civilian casualties, rather than extract punishment. Monarch perverted everything we developed, Elizabeth continued. Redirected methodologies designed for defense against legitimate threats toward domestic population control, without oversight or accountability. Weaponized understanding against the very citizens we swore to protect. Gabriel's analytical processes maintained function despite physical deterioration, assessing explanation against operational evidence. Elizabeth demonstrating apparent ethical framework consistency despite procedural contradiction regarding tactical team exposure earlier. Potential reliability indicator despite trust limitation protocols. Extraction destination, Gabriel asked, focusing on immediate operational parameters rather than historical context. Secure facility beyond agency operational awareness, Elizabeth answered. Medical resources, analytical capabilities, protection protocols established through independent network. Network? Former operators who recognized ethical boundary violations, Elizabeth explained. Intelligence community professionals who maintain commitment to constitutional frameworks despite institutional pressure. People who remembered why they entered service originally. The explanation suggested organizational architecture beyond individual operation, structured resistance network, rather than isolated ethical objection. Operational capabilities demonstrated through successful extraction against overwhelming tactical disadvantage, indicating significant resource commitment. The data doctor contains everything needed to dismantle Monarch completely, Elizabeth continued. Operative identities, authorization chains, implementation methodologies, target selection protocols, everything. Gabriel processed implications against operational reality. Intelligence representing existential threat to classified program operating with apparent executive authority. Information justifying extreme response parameters witnessed throughout. Extraction operation. Why target me specifically? Gabriel asked. Professional assessment seeking operational understanding despite situational complexity. Because you designed the resistance vulnerability protocols, Elizabeth explained. Your methodologies included specific cognitive architecture assessments, identifying potential resistance indicators before implementation. Neutralizing those resistance architectures requires your expertise. Understanding completed. Comprehensive. Operational picture assembling despite consciousness fragmentation. Or not simple elimination mission, but asset recovery operation targeting. Psychological warfare specialist for program continuation, despite ethical boundary violations. Without you, Monarch hits effectiveness ceiling, Elizabeth continued. Approximately 20% of targets demonstrate natural resistance architectures requiring specialized methodology adaptation. Your expertise essential for comprehensive implementation. The helicopter adjusted course. New heading indicating destination approach, despite continued evasion protocols. Pursuit aircraft no longer visible on monitoring systems, suggesting successful countermeasure implementation or operational withdrawal based on jurisdiction limitations. They're still coming, Gabriel noted. Professional assessment recognizing operational reality despite apparent tactical advantage. Monarch administrators won't abandon asset recovery objective. Precisely why? Immediate decision required regarding data doctor utilization, Elizabeth confirmed. Intelligence represents program termination capability if properly leveraged. Operational window closing as resources mobilize for comprehensive interdiction response. Decision point. Immediate intelligence deployment through resistance network. Elizabeth represented or strategic withholding pending comprehensive situation assessment despite deteriorating operational parameters. The psychological warfare specialist assessed variables against ethical framework rather than tactical advantage. Methodologies he'd developed throughout career, now weaponized against civilian population through classified program operating without oversight or accountability. His techniques for breaking terrorists to extract life-saving intelligence, repurposed for domestic surveillance and population control without constitutional constraint or institutional limitation. Decision crystallized through ethical framework rather than operational calculation. Implement immediate distribution, Gabriel instructed. Comprehensive intelligence, deployment through maximum distribution channels. Elizabeth nodded approval. Validation of decision architecture beyond tactical consideration. Authentication protocol, she asked. Security verification rather than operational question. Caracas, Gabriel provided despite security concerns. Operational urgency overriding standard protocol implementation given situational complexity. Elizabeth implemented immediate communication protocols. Specialized equipment suggesting capabilities beyond conventional parameters. Distribution architecture activated through authentication acceptance. Triggering comprehensive intelligence deployment through predetermined channels. Congressional oversight committees. Legitimate intelligence community leadership. Constitutional accountability frameworks, Elizabeth explained as protocols initiated. Simultaneous distribution ensuring comprehensive exposure beyond containment. Capability. Gabriel processed implications against professional understanding. Monarch program termination, inevitable given distribution architecture implemented. Classified domestic surveillance initiative, utilizing psychological manipulation. Methodologies exposed beyond institutional protection capability. His life's work, understanding human cognitive architecture to break terrorist resistance, weaponized against American citizens, then dismantled through exposure protocols he initiated, despite personal risk. Perfect operational irony. Pursuit protocols re-established, the pilot reported through communication system. Multiple aircraft approaching from southeast. Interdiction vectors calculated for current trajectory. Elizabeth maintained operational focus despite tactical degradation. Countermeasures. Implemented but effectiveness limited against resource. Deployment scale, the pilot responded. Destination approach compromised. Alternative landing zone required. Gabriel assessed tactical reality against physical condition. Medical intervention stabilizing critical parameters. But consciousness. Fragmentation accelerating despite compound administration. Operational capacity significantly compromised compared to pursuit asset capabilities. They're not pursuing the helicopter, Gabriel realized. Professional assessment penetrating situational complexity. They're pursuing the data doctor understanding, crystallized with perfect clarity. Pursuit assets targeting intelligence rather than personnel. Physical interdiction, prioritizing data doctor recovery despite distribution protocols already implemented. Operational objective focused on damage limitation rather than complete containment, recovering intelligence source to establish distribution. Limitation parameters despite initial exposure completion. Decision point. maintain possession despite tactical disadvantage, or implement final countermeasure, ensuring program termination despite personal risk escalation. The psychological warfare specialist, who had spent career understanding human cognitive architecture to break terrorist resistance, now implemented final protocol, ensuring terrorist methodology would never target American citizens. Land the helicopter, Gabriel instructed. Decision architecture completed despite tactical contradiction. Implement immediate cessation of evasion protocols. Elizabeth's expression registered surprise. Operational instruction contradicting tactical assessment despite pursuit parameters. Explanation, she requested. Professional validation rather than operational challenge. They're pursuing the data doctor, not us, Gabriel explained. Distribution complete, but source recovery remains priority for damage limitation assessment. Physical possession represents vulnerability rather than advantage under current parameters. Understanding registered across Elizabeth's features. Operational reality aligning with Gabriel's assessment despite tactical contradiction. Pursuit assets. Prioritizing intelligence recovery rather than personnel interdiction given distribution completion. Protocol recommendation? She requested. Mentor seeking students' assessment despite operational authority. Gabriel's response reflected perfect understanding of pursuit psychology after decades breaking resistance through cognitive architecture manipulation. Give them exactly what they want, under circumstances ensuring they'll wish they'd never found it. Elizabeth's expression shifted. Recognition of psychological warfare, specialist implementing final protocol against opposition, utilizing his own methodologies against civilian population. Perfect operational symmetry. Pilot, land, immediately, Elizabeth instructed, accepting Gabriel's tactical assessment despite conventional contradiction. Prepare for immediate transfer protocol implementation. The helicopter descended towards small clearing. Tactical disadvantage. From defensive perspective, but optimal for visibility from pursuit aircraft trajectory. Not concealment, but deliberate exposure, ensuring pursuit asset acquisition of landing coordinates. Make them believe they've won, Gabriel explained. Psychological architecture manipulation expertise applied against program administrators, utilizing his methodologies against civilians. Create victory narrative, ensuring operational focus remains on data doctor recovery rather than personnel interdiction. Elizabeth implemented specialized communication protocols, deploying misinformation through channels monitored by pursuit assets. Tactical deception, creating operational architecture where pursuit assets believed intelligence, containment remained viable despite distribution completion. Transfer preparations? Gabriel asked. Focus maintaining despite physical deterioration, accelerating through compound diminishment. Implemented, Elizabeth confirmed. Specialized equipment, indicating continuation capabilities beyond current operational parameters. Extraction team established at secondary coordinates. Medical intervention prepared for immediate implementation upon arrival. Gabriel secured the data doctor. Physical package representing ethical framework violation transformation into accountability. Mechanism through distribution architecture already implemented. Intelligence ensuring program termination despite pursuit asset allocation against recovery objectives. As pursuit aircraft approached visible on horizon, the psychological warfare specialist prepared final deception implementation, leveraging decades understanding human cognitive architecture to break resistance. Those who had weaponized his methodologies against American citizens would now experience those same techniques deployed against themselves, the hunter becoming prey, through perfect application of psychological warfare principles. The architect of breaking minds through environmental manipulation now prepared to break those who had perverted his life's work for purposes contradicting everything he had entered service to protect. Gabriel's expression resolved into professional detachment despite physical deterioration. Psychological warfare specialist, implementing final operation against opposition, utilizing his own methodologies against innocent civilians. Those who lived by manipulating environments to break minds would now experience environments manipulated. To break their operational architecture completely, the pursuit aircraft touched down in cascading sequence. 3 unmarked helicopters deploying tactical teams with practiced precision. No standard military protocols. No conventional law enforcement procedures. Specialized unit operating beyond institutional accountability frameworks. Elizabeth and her team had already departed. Extraction completed through predetermined emergency protocols, while Gabriel remained behind. Tactical diversion creating operational window, ensuring team survival, while maintaining pursuit focus on data doctor recovery, rather than personnel interdiction. Gabriel stood alone at clearing center. Physical deterioration managed through final medical compound administration, providing temporary functionality despite accelerating systemic compromise. The data doctor displayed prominently in High's hand, intelligence, package deliberately visible to approaching tactical teams. The team leader approached cautiously, weapon ready but not directed aggressively. Asset recovery prioritizing intelligence acquisition rather than personnel neutralization, exactly as Gabriel had predicted through psychological assessment. Dr. Vance, the leader acknowledged. Professional recognition rather than operational hostility. Surrender the package and receive medical treatment. Non-negotiable parameters. Gabriel studied the approaching figure with professional detachment. Operational. Patterns indicating specialized training beyond conventional qualification. Not standard military deployment. Not agency tactical team. Something else. Something operating beyond institutional accountability structures. Monarch implementation specialist, Gabriel identified. Professional recognition, penetrating operational anonymity. Program administrator rather than field operator. Micro-expressions confirmed assessment. Surprise at identification despite operational anonymity. Vulnerability, indicator Gabriel could exploit through psychological pressure despite tactical disadvantage. The data doctor distribution is complete, Gabriel stated with absolute conviction, creating operational architecture where reality appeared inevitable rather than negotiable. Congressional oversight committees, legitimate intelligence leadership, constitutional accountability frameworks, all simultaneously receiving intelligence packages as we speak. The team leader's expression shifted, concern penetrating professional discipline despite training, operational vulnerability expanding through perfect psychological pressure application. Santiago's insurance policy implemented exactly as designed. Gabriel continued, applying precise psychological pressure against identified vulnerability. Program termination inevitable, given distribution architecture completeness. Surrender the package, the leader repeated, but conviction diminished through psychological architecture manipulation Gabriel implemented through precisely calculated pressure application. Why pursue physical package when distribution already complete? Gabriel asked, creating cognitive dissonance through logical contradiction. Operational parameters suggest alternative objective beyond intelligence containment. The leader hesitated. Operational script disrupted through unexpected resistance architecture. Not physical opposition, but psychological manipulation applied by subject matter expert against tactical team utilizing his own methodologies. Perfect. Operational irony. Monarch utilizing my environmental manipulation techniques against domestic targets, Gabriel stated. Creating disclosure architecture where admission became preferable to continued denial given operational reality. Weaponizing methodologies, designed for breaking terrorists against American citizens protected by constitutional frameworks. The leader maintained silence, but physiological indicators confirmed assessment accuracy, micro-expressions, perspiration patterns, pupillary response, all demonstrating cognitive conflict despite operational discipline. You need me, Gabriel continued, applying perfect psychological pressure against identified vulnerability. Not just the data doctor, but the architect who designed resistance vulnerability protocols. Without me, Monarch hits effectiveness, sealing against natural resistance architectures. Approximately 20% of targets immune to current methodology implementation. Understanding registered across team leaders' features despite operational discipline. Subject demonstrating comprehensive program knowledge beyond containment capability. Psychological manipulation applied by methodology architect against operation, utilizing his techniques. Operation parameters shifted, Gabriel stated with absolute certainty, creating decision architecture where compliance appeared inevitable rather than optional. Program exposure complete. Administrator careers finished. Accountability frameworks activating beyond institutional protection capability. The leader activated communication system. Consultation with command authority regarding operational adjustment given parameter degradation. Psychological pressure, creating decision architecture where original objective appeared non-viable despite tactical advantage. Stand down, came instruction through tactical communication system. Asset extraction priority, immediate medical intervention authorized. Gabriel surrendered the data doctor, physical package representing merely symbolic value given distribution. Completion through Elizabeth's network. Intelligence ensuring program termination, despite pursuit asset allocation against recovery objectives. The tactical team implemented immediate medical protocols, specialized equipment designed for field, stabilization despite severe physical deterioration, professional efficiency indicating advanced training beyond conventional qualification. As consciousness fragmented through compound diminishment and physical system compromise, Gabriel maintained perfect understanding regarding operational outcome. Monarch program termination, inevitable given intelligence distribution architecture implementation. His methodologies, designed for breaking terrorists to extract life-saving intelligence, would never again target American citizens through classified programs operating without oversight or accountability. The psychological warfare specialist had implemented final operation against those who perverted his life's work for purposes contradicting everything he had entered service to protect. Perfect operational completion. 6 months later, Gabriel stood before the closed congressional committee, physical recovery complete despite extensive rehabilitation requirements following field medical intervention, professional discipline maintaining perfect composure despite institutional pressure, attempting intimidation through environmental manipulation. Ironic, given subject matter under investigation. Dr. Vance, the committee chairman acknowledged, formal recognition masking operational animosity beneath political necessity. Your testimony regarding Project Monarch contradicts official position statements from multiple intelligence community leadership representatives. Gabriel maintained neutral expression despite psychological pressure application. Amateur attempts at manipulation, transparent to methodology architect, who had designed more sophisticated systems. Official position statements crafted specifically to conceal domestic surveillance program operating without constitutional authorization or congressional oversight. Gabriel responded with perfect professional detachment. Data doctor documentation confirms comprehensive implementation architecture, including operative identities, authorization chains, target selection methodologies. The chairman maintained adversarial positioning despite evidence compilation confirming testimony accuracy. Political necessity rather than factual dispute given administration exposure through program implementation authorization. 673 American citizens targeted through unauthorized surveillance, utilizing psychological manipulation methodologies I developed for breaking terrorists. Gabriel continued, creating comprehensive disclosure architecture where denial became impossible despite institutional resistance. Techniques weaponized against domestic population without legal authorization or oversight accountability. Committee. Members exchanged glances indicating cognitive conflict. Political necessity battling constitutional responsibility given evidence, compilation, confirming systematic abuse beyond institutional protection capability. Your methodologies, another committee member clarified, seeking operational understanding beyond political positioning. Explain exactly what Monarch implemented against American citizens. Gabriel considered explanation architecture given audience, composition, specialized terminology inappropriate for non-technical observers despite operational accuracy requirements. Environmental manipulation techniques designed to modify cognitive architecture through neurological pathway adaptation, he explained, balancing technical accuracy against comprehension requirements. Methods creating decision frameworks where subjects believe they're exercising free choice while actually responding to precisely calibrated external stimuli. Understanding registered across committee member expressions despite technical complexity. Comprehension regarding fundamental constitutional violation implications beyond political positioning requirements. Breaking minds without subjects realizing they're being broken, Gabriel summarized, creating perfect comprehension architecture despite operational complexity. Weaponizing environments against targeted individuals to modify behavior without accountability evidence typically associated with coercive techniques. The chairman's expression hardened despite political necessity. Personal manipulation architect, facing consequences despite institutional protection attempts. And you designed these methodologies? I designed techniques for breaking terrorists to extract life-saving intelligence, Gabriel corrected with absolute precision. Monarch administrators repurposed those methodologies for domestic population control without authorization or oversight. Yet you participated in intelligence community operations for 23 years, another committee member observed, creating responsibility diffusion architecture, attempting culpability distribution rather than focused accountability. I served, protecting American citizens from external threats, Gabriel responded, maintaining ethical framework clarity despite manipulation attempt. When I recognized methodology weaponization against those same citizens, I exposed the program despite significant personal risk. The distinction registered beyond political positioning, Ethical framework penetrating institutional loyalty expectations, despite operational culture, prioritizing secrecy above accountability. Program administrators have been identified and removed from positions, the chairman acknowledged. Political necessity requiring accountability demonstration despite institutional protection instinct. Monarch dismantled, completely given constitutional violation evidence compilation. Gabriel maintained neutral expression despite operational victory confirmation. Professional discipline, rather than personal satisfaction, given situation gravity, transcending individual vindication. However, the chairman continued. Political positioning reasserting despite accountability requirements. Methodology development responsibility remains significant consideration despite implementation separation. Gabriel accepted implied criticism without defensive response, acknowledging ethical complexity beyond binary judgment architecture despite operational necessity distinction. We break things to understand how they work. Gabriel responded finally, decades of psychological operations distilled to fundamental ethical framework. The responsibility comes in what we do with that understanding. The statement penetrated political positioning, ethical framework recognition, transcending institutional loyalty requirements, despite operational culture prioritizing effectiveness above constraint. As testimony concluded, Gabriel reflected on perfect operational irony. Psychological warfare specialist who had spent career breaking minds to protect American citizens had ultimately broken the system, weaponizing his methodologies against those same citizens. The architect of understanding human cognitive architecture had applied that same understanding to protect the very democratic institutions that understanding could destroy when weaponized without ethical constraints or accountability frameworks. The cabin in Wyoming's wilderness remained. Environmental manipulation, laboratory transformed into reminder regarding responsibility accompanying knowledge. Methodologies designed for protection perverted toward control, then reclaimed through ethical framework application transcending institutional loyalty. The mindbreaker had ultimately protected minds from being broken. Perfect operational symmetry completing career, dedicated to understanding human cognitive architecture not to control, but to protect. Trust no one had transformed through operational necessity to trust what matters most. Ethical framework, transcending institutional loyalty when systems themselves became the threat requiring psychological warfare. Specialist's final operation.